You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. Today with me I have Kyle, and he is the host of the Gaggle podcast. And Kyle and I actually met. I think I met so many people down at Podfest because they all now know me for cerebral palsy and know my voice, that they wanted to meet me. So Kyle and I got the privilege of hanging out at Podfest back at the beginning of March. So before this interesting show that Kyle and I are both sitting in right now hit, we landed up traveling. So yes, traveling. And as I said to Kyle before we hit record, we're lucky that we did it the week we did it. So
Absolutely.
I'm going Mr. Kyle, take it away and explain why his podcast is his podcast.
Sure. Yeah. So so GagglePod is our I guess you could call it our tiny little company that my co-founder Tim Bryan and I created 3 years ago. We started with a meetup. We were kind of both just amateur podcasters. We'd been playing around with some ideas. We both had a podcast. Tim had done Blog Talk. I had a podcast about mountain bike race direction because I used to be a blogger, kind of turned podcaster. So we both kind of started this meetup called GagglePod, and we've since changed the name to the Virginia Podcasting Association because it sounds much more official. And so, so that kind of birthed out of that. But so we keep this little company going called GagglePod that is about podcast design or concept creation. And what we've discovered through 3 years of talking to people at meetups, especially new podcasters, is that the first thing they do with podcasting is they buy a microphone and then they say, okay, what am I going to podcast about? And they start thinking about their concept, and then they start talking into a microphone, and then they start producing episodes. And about episode between 7 and 13, they get lost and they don't know what to do next, and they stop. And then we play around with different words. One of the words we talk about is the pod flash, which is like you get like one episode and that's it. And then you have a pod fade, which is you get about episode 13 or so, and you kind of like you lose your energy. And then you pod wreck. And a pod wreck is where your show just dies, but you don't stop the RSS feed. You just keep the feed live. So if you think about the almost million, soon to be, very, very shortly, 1 million podcasts in Apple Podcasts, about 250,000 of them are actual podcasts that are alive. The rest of them are smashed on the rocks of Apple Podcasts all over the place.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, that's a cool idea. So we created a podcast called Podwrecked. And the whole point of Podwrecked was to survive your podcast. All the things we had done wrong and all the things that we knew other people had done wrong, we're like, let's talk about how you survive that. What happens when you don't hit record? What happens when you release an episode that's got 20 minutes of silence in it that you didn't intend? What happens when you do something that is completely out? It started with like industry news, and then we had then we pivoted, and we were like, and then we pivoted, and this is where we kind of found our niche. So we've kind of formed ourselves into this place that we think that very few podcasting people are in. And this is this spot between, we call it everything before the microphone. There is a whole lot of stuff you have to do before you actually create a podcast or before you buy a microphone. And we say, a lot of people think step 1 is the microphone. No, step 8 is the microphone. Steps 1 through 7 are these things like discover
Yeah,
your why and get a description and find your topic and figure out your niche and who your target audience, and then develop your script and kind of your content and then this concept development idea. And it's kind of it resonates a little bit. It's kind of picking up a little steam. We're still kind of in our formative, I guess, forming phases, because it's rather new, turning from being a meetup into an actual business. Actually, hey, people actually will pay us to help do this. So we're starting to think along those lines. But right now we're just having fun. So we've got a podcast for having fun, and then Tim and I have our own personal podcast. Tim does something called the Create Art Podcast, which is a podcast about where he interviews artists and he talks about art. He's an art major. He's got a master's in fine arts from Virginia Commonwealth University. And I have another one called Not Easily Squished. And Not Easily Squished is about podcast design, about idea generation, about ideation, about where do ideas come from and how do you incorporate that into something that you could create a podcast out of. That's
yeah.
kind of that's us. That's what we do down
That's
here in
us.
Virginia.
That's
And we're
you. That's
not chicken
you.
cows. So
And so, Kyle, if you had to move house and take 5 things with you, for
uh-oh.
the exception of your family and obviously a laptop, what would they be?
5 things. 5 things. It's almost like if the state we're in right now, we had to like what's called a bug out bag,
Yeah,
which is your bag you have to
yeah,
take. You have 30 seconds to get out the door. Oh, that's a tough one. It probably, well, I'm a Virginia boy, but I'm also a military guy. So the first thing I would probably take is probably weapons and ammo. Is that one thing or 2 things?
yes. That's the
Yeah,
one thing.
probably things to start a fire with. That's always good stuff to do. Probably some kind of hatchet or machete that you can build shelters with. Uh, I always find that that buckets or things you can carry water in is always good, especially something you can heat up over a fire, because then there's water all over the place, so you can find water,
Yeah,
drink water.
exactly.
And then beyond that, it's probably, I don't know, either a fishing pole or maybe a really warm coat. But it's like, got to live off the land, so they got to get survive. So and then
Living off
probably,
living off land. Yeah,
yeah, we'd probably be heading to Texas. That's probably where we go. Is they get the heck out of Virginia because it gets winter here. We go someplace with no winter, so we
yes,
go south. We'll
yes.
go south.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's a good way to think about it. I never actually thought about it as a go bag to have ready and able to go. Um, that's a good way to think about it.
Always got to have one. You got to, just in case, even if it
Yeah,
just has food and clothing and
yeah.
like a compass in it. Yeah.
Always, always. I personally don't have a go bag, but maybe you inspired me to create a go bag because the state we're living in now, I'm thinking, well, what would I bring if I had to get
Yeah.
out the door in 30 seconds? I mean, this shelter in place has got all of us thinking about, okay, what would we do if we I never thought about shelter in place until this time.
It's crazy. It's this time is I went to the grocery store yesterday, and I wore gloves and I wore a rain. I have a pullover raincoat I wore when I was doing a lot of sports, and I put a bandana around my face, wore a hat, and kept myself pretty close. I had blue jeans on, and try to keep myself as protected, keep away from people. And I'm standing there next to other people who are dressed similar to me, all dressed up, and we're keeping our distance.
Oh,
And then in walks people with tank tops and flip flops on. So it's
they
weird.
don't
Like,
they
some
don't
people don't
care.
care, and some people care
They
a lot.
don't
So
understand it. They don't understand it. No, when it was my girlfriend. When my girlfriend, before we did the shelter in place out here, my girlfriend goes, "You need to wear gloves when you go to the grocery store."
Uh,
And my girlfriend also has CP. And I'm like, seriously? I thought she was kidding when she said you need to wear gloves. And I'm like, okay.
can't imagine
Okay,
the number of
we're
things you
going to
touch. Yeah, the number of things you
do
touch in a
more for
grocery
me.
store, like shopping carts
Yeah.
and pulling stuff off.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
pull an
yeah,
item
yeah,
off the
yeah,
shelf
yeah,
and someone
yeah,
else
yeah,
has
yeah.
put that there
I
or
thought
touching it.
she
Yeah.
I thought she was kidding when she said you need to wear gloves. I'm like, okay, you're not kidding. And my stepmom goes, as she's walking out the door today to go to the grocery store. Um, we're recording this on Sunday, April 5th. And so we're still in shelter in place mode, you guys out there. And so she goes, I I don't have a pair of gloves. I'm like, you can use any pair of. Now I know what she's talking about, obviously. And I'm like, you can use any pair of gloves. They don't have to be plastic gloves. And
No,
she's
yeah,
like,
they don't.
good
Yeah.
point, Win. And I'm like, yeah, just a pair of gloves would be sufficient. Just a
Yeah.
pair of gloves would be sufficient. And so, yes. And so, if you had your best friend write a book about you, what would the title be?
What would the title be? The title would be uh, "Do It Early, Do It Twice."
Do it, only do it twice. I love it.
Yeah, I do a
And
lot of things.
so,
Like, the first time is not always the best time. Usually, it's the second try that is a whole lot better. I've done a lot of things over again,
yep,
from
yep.
calculus to to business. I think this is my fourth company. The other three didn't make it, so this is the fourth chance. I guess that's I'm doing it the fourth time here, but those are the kind of things. Yeah, it's like I learn the first time, and the second time usually I have the a whole lot more. Yeah, so that's what the title would be.
Do it twice.
Do it early, do it twice.
Do it only do it twice. Okay. There we go. And now, what is your favorite book? And what is the title?
Ooh, my favorite book. Okay. Well, there's so many, but I think the one that probably comes to mind right now is The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. And that's because it's about a little kid who no one thinks is great, who becomes great. I think there's a really good message there. And he does it by learning how to know himself. Because in the book, he creates this monster and he chases the monster the whole book. And it turns out the monster he created is really just the dark side of himself. And he has to embrace both sides in order to become whole again. So that book is probably that's my mom read that to me when I was a little kid. So that one has stuck with me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so, what is your favorite podcast that you listen to?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if you looked at my Pocket Cast right now, you'd find 140 podcasts on there and like 96 hours worth of listening over the past. Yeah. I listen to so many podcasts, but I probably have to say it's the guy who got me started podcasting. It's Dave Jackson in the School of Podcasting. I
I
listened
knew
to
it.
his show.
I
Yep.
knew it. I 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 knew
In
it.
podcasting, I mean, it was weird because at DC Podfest 4 years ago, I was fanboying hard. He was over there and I was like, "Oh boy, oh no, it's Dave Jackson." And
Yeah,
I went over
yeah,
there and was like, "Hello, Mr. Jackson, how are you?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Dave." And now 4
yeah.
years later, it's Dave and Kyle. We hung out at Podfest and we had pizzas in the cafeteria in the hotel at 2 in the morning just talking about life and all sorts of things going on in our lives. I never thought in a million years that that would happen. But if it had not been for his podcast, I never would have started my podcast. I listened to maybe 100 episodes in a row of his show, and then I was like, you know what? I can do this.
I
That's
I
how that happened.
still learn from his podcast, and unfortunately, I had to. Long story, but when I was in Orlando, I stupidly didn't stay on the premises with
Okay.
you guys. So I and I wish I did now, but that's a long story in
You
itself.
stay at another hotel?
And I stayed in another hotel.
Okay.
So as I'm walking out the door to catch my ride with my aide to, and I am so peeved at myself. I didn't stay for Dave Jackson's closing speech. I'm like,
Oh, you're gonna have to watch that video. Yeah, it
why?
was really good. It was really good.
Why? I am so peeved at myself. I didn't stay for Dave Jackson's closing speech. I'm like, goodness. But I did get to meet Harry Durant, which
Cool. Okay.
Harry Durant
I like
is
Harry
the
too. Yeah.
nicest person on the planet.
Yep.
And it's so funny because people were stopping me in the hallway, and Mike, Michael from Simplecast, um, Michael Murphy, that's his last name. I couldn't remember it. He stopped me twice, and it's like, okay, I am now well known enough in the podcast industry to get stopped in the hallway. I'm like, this is cool. This is cool. And yeah,
You're like
so
me. You've reached that weird level in podcasting where you know enough people that people who are just starting now think of you as the way you thought of those people when you were first starting.
yes,
You've reached that
yes,
level. You're like,
exactly.
oh, that's Win over there.
Exactly.
Oh, no, she's so popular. Oh, I'm so afraid to go
Yeah.
talk to her.
This is
And it's a
that's
weird feeling to
one.
be in
That
that new
was
spot.
super weird when people said, well, when James's daughter Izzy came
Ah,
up
okay.
to
Yep.
me and said, "Are you Miss Charles?" That just sent me almost backwards because one, she caught me eating. Two, that child had more professionalism than I have ever seen out of a 9-year-old, and I'm like, what?
I wish I had started podcasting at 9 years old.
And so, yeah, and I'm trying to get those guys on Ask When, but
Oh,
they've
excellent.
moved house and they've done all over the place since after we left. But I'm like, Izzy, you have more professionalism than I did at 9, and I still do things. Like, I Izzy, you're going to beat all of us to the punch. So, as we wrap this interview up, do you have any questions for me?
Well, I think my biggest thing is I heard now, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard you've done 1,300 episodes. Does that sound about right?
I have. I have.
So how long so thinking back to your very first episodes to now, did you ever think that you would be at 1,300 episodes at this point? And what keeps you going to do this? What's the drive that you have to keep yourself going to maybe 1,500 or 2,000 at some point? Is that where you
Well,
do you know where you're going? Maybe that's a good question.
I know where I'm going now because I unfortunately got laid off due to everything that was going on. I unfortunately got laid off from my part-time job. So now I'm a full-time content creator. So I
Okay.
do have some aspects as to where I'm going. And fortunately for me, because people are at home, I'm giving them doses of hope, whereas the media right now is all consuming by what's going on around us. And so people are looking to me as the beacon of hope, the person who's not panicking with the disability. And so I feel
That's good.
like
Good.
I'm going strong to get to 2,000 episodes. I mean, I am going strong enough to get to 2,000 episodes. But looking back on it, my biggest challenge was disappearing, disappearing for a month and not telling my fan base where I was. When I
Ah,
finally came back on the mic, I gave an update, then I gave another update. When I finally came back on mic, they go, "What? You were dealing with what?" And I was dealing with my dad being diagnosed with cancer. And I did podcast episodes from my office where we are now with an oxygen compressor playing in the back while he's fighting for his life. And I um I remember, and it's gonna be a year in May. So I remember the day he died. I stepped on that mic, and we, myself and my girlfriend, who also happens to be my assistant, Danielle Coulter, um, we had planned to do our interview. And I said, well, let's leave that interview in place and I'll just tell everyone what happened. And you know what? I got condolence wishes on Twitter. I got condolence wishes via Facebook. I got condolence wishes every which way. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool when you're transparent with your fans and tell them exactly what's going on.
made a
Yeah,
connection. Yeah.
connection. Because, yeah, I had to disappear for a month, and I said during those um during those podcast interviews, I'm surprised my fan base didn't hear oxygen compressors going off. I'm surprised they didn't hear the sound of the oxygen stuff
Sometimes that
going
stuff
off.
doesn't matter. Yeah. Sometimes it's just like,
That doesn't
this is
matter.
this is the reality of what's going on in the life, right?
This is reality. And when I stepped back on that mic, I gave an update and I stepped back
Wow.
on that mic, and I may replay if she can find it. I may replay the update I gave for everyone now, just so they know what went on in my life. And so it was interesting, and I am aiming for 2,000 episodes, you guys. So welcome to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Okay.
I
All right.
I didn't realize that one, I was going to start this journey of being a journalist with losing my mom.
Okay.
Second, I didn't realize that my dad was going to die in middle of my journalism journey, and this is gonna make me cry because um, I graduate from college with a bachelor's degree, a second bachelor's degree, mind you, in 2022, and both my parents will not see me walk.
Yeah, that was my tough part too.
And
My mom died in 2012, and that was my tough thing, is when I graduated with my master's.
yeah,
She was not there for that, and I'm, as the first generation in 9 generations to go to college, that was kind of a big deal. So
yeah.
I get it. That's
And my dad went to college, and he actually went to Georgetown University, and then almost got in to University of Virginia Law School, decided to drop that, and got so I it was tough enough not knowing that my mom wouldn't see me walk, but this graduation is going to be even tougher, you guys, because one, it's going to be something I wanted, and the fact that both of them now will not see me graduate, oy, that's going to be majorly tough. But
yeah.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it, and
People in
I
your life. It's not a complete, it's not not
well,
all sad. You got other people in your life that are
yeah,
still around.
I got other people in
That'll be
my
a good
life,
thing.
my stepmom and
Yeah,
step,
that'd be good.
but um, but yeah, it was a sobering experience
Wow.
knowing that, and I was supposed to be this year's graduating class. I was supposed to be graduated in May with my associate's degree, landed up transferring programs, long story why. But I am thankful that I landed up transferring programs and am graduating in 2022.
Well,
So
congratulations.
at
That'll be cool.
least I can get my graduation ceremony in, whereas the class of 2020 can't.
That's true. Yeah, my one of my friends' son is a senior in high school who gets no prom, gets no senior trip. There's no like skip
Yeah,
day because
yeah.
there's no school. So I don't know
No
how
school,
graduate or no graduation either. I don't know if you know how
no
that works.
graduation. No, I've been talking to people out here and no high schoolers out here and no graduation whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I just looked at, because I was curious, I just looked at my ex job's website. I used to be in education. I taught privately for 10 years at this job. And they said all the May activities are still scheduled. I'm like, oh boy, oh
Yeah, I don't
boy.
know how that's gonna work.
And I don't know how that would
Yeah.
work. I'm like, oh boy, there we go. So so I said to them, I said, look, I'm leaving you guys because you guys don't have a plan. You guys didn't listen and make made a plan enough so that they could support me and all the other teachers slash the students. I mean, students are struggling right now in
Yeah.
special ed, mind you. And so students all across the country are struggling.
Yep.
But
Gotta stay
um
positive though. This is the thing about
yeah,
this being
yeah.
it's
We're trying.
so tough to
We're
stay
trying.
positive. Yeah.
So Kyle, where can people find you if they choose to do so?
Well, I mean, I first off, just before that, the inspiration of having 13 episodes under your belt and moving on to 2000 is inspiring to me because I think Tim and I actually did some math the other day and we're like baby podcasters compared to you. We're like maybe combined we're 300 episodes, maybe 400 episodes and you having 1300 we're like, man, we got some work to do. We're not even close yet. So we're definitely inspired by that. Um where can you find us? You can go to gagglepod.com. That's all our shows are there, and some of the stuff about how we help people do concept creation and all the stuff before the microphone is there. Um, and of course, there's the podrec.com, noteasilysquish.com, createartpodcast.com is all our places. But gagglepod.com is kind of the home base. So if you go there, you can find everything else, including vaboda.org, which is if you're ever traveling through Virginia, whenever you're allowed to travel again. In fact, what we did this last week is instead of the place we usually had it on was a local library where we have a meetup, it's closed. So we got on Zoom and we talked about podcast editing. So we had our meetup online, which I imagine if doesn't have to be someone from Virginia could come to our meetup. So
Yeah,
next
yeah,
next month, this month, I guess we're in April now. Go look
yeah,
at gagglepod.com or find us on Facebook, and you'll see where our meetup will be at. Hey, come join us. Yeah, we'd love to have
yeah.
you. I don't have
I
people. How many people
I
on Zoom
might
channel can
do
be,
that.
but
I might appear and speak about how podcasting. I could chime in and how podcasting changed my life for the better, and
yeah,
because now I'm doing um doing this full time and going strong at it, and then yeah, I'm just you never know where I'll land up, you guys. Now that I got the big, huge, giant elephants out of the way, and not to say that losing my dad, it's not a laughing matter, and it's not a
yeah,
laughing matter to lose
it's not.
my mom either, but when I first thought about it, I'm like, oh boy, how am I supposed to step back on that mic with physical and emotional pain? But it turns out that that mic has been therapeutic for me. And
Well,
when
that's
you're going through something like we're going through today, yeah, just come and just figure out your why and figure out what you're going to do. And I'm sorry for those of you that lost your jobs. I am, but now is the time to reinvent yourself.
absolutely. I think that's an excellent message right there. Reinvent yourself. That you have this downtime, use it. You can go Khan
Really?
Academy gives free education. Stanford and Harvard have free education online. You can go to all these, there's courses all over the place. You can almost rediscover yourself within 30 days of, you could become a programmer, you could become a physicist. I mean, there's all this stuff you could become. You could become a podcaster. Hey, become a podcaster.
Yeah.
Maybe 30 days, you
Hey.
got all these people. Yeah. So there's all this free content out there. Go use your time. Use this time.
And
Waste.
and speaking of Dave Jackson, Dave Jackson has a podcast called The School of Podcasting every Monday
The name.
morning. And so, and of course, he'll be able to help you out. Kyle and I will be able to help you out, you guys.
Absolutely.
So it's I asked my fan base this morning on April 5th, as we called this. I said, how are you guys doing, honestly? Because I check in with my fan base on Facebook. One of my fans wrote, he literally wrote, I'm bored. And I'm like, you are not. So I replied, go find a class online, go do something,
Yeah.
because you can't be bored. You can't be bored,
No.
you guys.
This is
You
going to be a
cannot.
reinventing of the national park. I go to the national parks all the time, and there's never anybody there. And now I'm going to national parks, and people are showing up. There's actually people there who are interested in battlefields and in kind of the
Yeah,
national monuments, things like that.
yeah.
And if you get a chance, that's a huge place where you can avoid people and actually go for a walk in nature. I think this is going to be that time. People are going to reinvent themselves, and they're going to discover nature and discover exercise. There's going to be a really big change in a lot of people's lives.
Oh yeah. And discover the power of the voice. And yeah. So you guys, I am going to sign off, but I appreciate Kyle's time today. And I hope you guys enjoyed another episode of Ask Win. And I'll see you guys next week. And then we'll carry on from there. Make this world a happier, safer place. You guys. Bye, you guys.
You just listened to Ask Win, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwin.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Win on Twitter at WinKellyCharles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Win's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Win, the podcast.